Okay, so here's what we're not going to do. We're not going to pretend like this racist piece of shit on the screen right now, whose name I'm not going to fucking use, was just being tone deaf, or that the things that she was saying were poorly phrased. She is an actual racist, period. You've got white South Africans, Afrikaners, being raped and murdered and driven off of their land. And we're talking entire families being slaughtered and their means of life being burned down to the ground. And this bitch just sits there on national television with a smug little smirk and says, well, they should just go back to Germany. No empathy, no facts, no context, just pure spite based on their race. If anyone else said something like that about Palestinians, about black refugees, or even Jews, they'd be fired on the spot and blacklisted from every fucking media platform there is. Maybe except for Rumble. But who the fuck uses Rumble? But when it's white people, all of a sudden it's fair game. Suddenly it's based, which is a word that the left should never fucking use ever. This lady does not care about justice. She doesn't care about oppression. She just wants the victim card to stay exclusive. So that means that if spitting on people who are running for their lives, then it's good in her eyes. Let them suffer. Look at the color of their skin. Look at the lack of melanin. Sweet, scrumptious melanin. I want you to listen closely to what she says in this clip, because this isn't a mistake. This is actually what she believes.
There's not a genocide in South
That's
Africa.
right.
And we have a refugee program.
I am sure there's been violence
there
against one side or the other.
There has been violence.
Answer me one question.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Answer.
I want to make a point. Violence does not equal genocide.
That's
so
right.
we need to be really, really clear about that. Because if you look
If you're
at
the
violence,
dead guy, you may not say that.
Okay. So if you think about the history of South Africa, it being under an apartheid system, and that allowed for a racial reconciliation, one that this country has yet to do, but South Africa did it, and they reformed their constitution, and part of that is that the people who are native to that land deserve their rightful land back. That is not what the Afrikaners actually want to have happen, which are the white Africans. Now, if the constitution in South Africa is discriminatory, they have their checks and balances in that land, just like we do. And that is for them to. So if the Afrikaners don't actually like the land, they can leave that country.
They are. They're leaving to come here.
No. They can
These
leave
refugees
and go,
are coming here.
They can actually leave and go to where their native land is, which is probably Germany.
Are you
or
against them coming here?
Holland, probably. Holland,
Are you
yes.
against them coming here?
I'm against the hypocrisy of this administration.
No, that's not the question. The question is, are you against
That woman just said on national television and said that white South Africans, people born there, whose families have lived there for centuries, should just go back to Germany. No empathy, no nuance, just racial spite. That same line had been said about literally any other group, the internet would have exploded. But because they're white, yeah, she's going to get away with it. She didn't make an argument. She didn't bring facts. She just said, you're the wrong color. You don't belong. You don't fit the narrative. It's just ethnic revenge with a progressive smile. Something that's being taught to black people nationwide and has been being taught to black people nationwide for a while. She's not even advocating for equality. She's just trying to gatekeep suffering. They can't suffer. They're white people. Look at them. They can just go back to where they came from. Like they have any kind of semblance of identity with the places that they come from. And the saddest part is that nobody on that panel, except for Scott Jennings, pushes back. Because this kind of open racial hatred has been normalized. As long as it's aimed in the approved direction, of course. If you're white and being slaughtered on your own land that's being stolen from you, shut up and leave. You don't count. That's the mindset. And it's not just fringe activists saying it. It's journalists. It's clergy for some reason, which we'll get into with this next clip. It's all over national news platforms. This wasn't a mistake. This is what they want policy to look like. And if you think that was bad, wait until the next clip. Then you can see how CNN handles it whenever DHS tries to justify helping these 59 refugees.
President Trump is right to say that people in danger should be offered help and safety regardless of race. So why is the United States, why is the president not living up to that? Right now, no refugees are being resettled in the U.S., not from the Congo, from Sudan, Afghanistan, Haiti. The only exception is South Africa, specifically Afrikaners, a white minority group of landowners that's claiming discrimination. And here's President Trump on Friday defending the fairness of prioritizing white South Africans.
If I see people in distress, I don't care what color, what they look like, what anything, their size, their height, their eyes, I don't care. But I think that from all evidence, the farmers in South Africa are being treated brutally. And it's been reported, and nobody wants to cover it. But they happen to be white, and if they were black, I'd do the exact same thing. And we treat people very well when we see there's a genocide going on. So if it's a genocide, that's terrible, and I happen to believe it could very well be. So we've made a home, and we'll make a home for other people that are treated badly, no matter what their color.
A flight carrying the first group of 59 South Africans arrived on Monday. On that same day, the Secretary of Homeland Security addressed the termination of temporary protected status for Afghans. It's set to expire Monday the 19th. Now, the Secretary of Homeland Security said in a statement that we reviewed the conditions in Afghanistan with our interagency partners, and they do not meet the requirements for TPS designation. Kristi Noem cites an improved security situation and stabilizing economy. Afghanistan is run by the Taliban. Bishop Sean Rowe of the Episcopal Church came out this week to say it's wrong for the U.S. to make a home, as the president put it, for white South Africans, but then not do the same for Afghans. As a result, Bishop Rowe says the church is withdrawing from the U.S. refugee resettlement program.
We had people waiting on airplanes. We had people who have helped our country, that have been translators for our military, that have been patriots for this country, that are waiting in camps while white Afrikaners are being let in on a fast track. We feel like that as a moral matter, we can't participate in.
Yeah. So here you've got Bishop Rowe. He's just sitting there saying that as a moral matter, we can't participate in this. Luckily, he's speaking for the Episcopal Church, a church that fucking nobody attends. That line that he gave should piss everyone off, no matter what side of the aisle you stand on politically. Because here's the truth. The church, any church that's actually worth a damn, should see every refugee as a moral matter worth fighting for. Not just the ones that trend, not just the ones that match your fucking stupid ass narrative, not just the ones that have darker skin and a better PR package. If you're being hunted, if your land is being taken, your family is being murdered, your life is under threat, it shouldn't matter what you look like. The church should be there. But for this motherfucker, it does matter. He didn't even say that the process is flawed. He didn't deny that there's any violence. He just couldn't get past the fact that the refugees are white people with ancestors that have a murky past. He would rather these people pay for the sins of their fathers than give them any kind of asylum. That's not morality. It's just racial politics wrapped up in a fucking priest costume. And let's be real, at this point, the church would probably slap a collar on any cuck with a fucking coexist bumper sticker. Just because they asked for it. The church as a whole is supposed to be the last line of defense for truth and dignity, not a fucking HR department for progressive narratives. If Jesus had the same spine as Bishop Rowe here, he would have played it safe and kept his head down. He doesn't stand for truth.
So a lot to talk about with Tricia McLaughlin. She's back with us. She's the Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs at the Department of Homeland Security. Tricia, welcome back. Let me start here. Despite the president's repeated reference, can we just start this conversation by agreeing that Afrikaners are not facing genocide?
No.
Absolutely not. First of all, I have to correct the facts, Victor. You said that no refugees were let in. Under President Donald Trump, since January 20th, 8,666 individuals have been granted asylum. Those people have faced persecution for their politics, persecution for the color of their skin, their religion, and that includes those 59 Afrikaners who came in this country last week who have faced racial violence at the hand of their own government. They've had their land seized because of the color of their skin. There's been over 140 laws enacted that are race-based and to discriminate against racial minorities. So I got to correct the facts where you're wrong, Victor, and you're wrong.
So, several things. President Ramaphosa says that although the law was signed in January that would give the government the purview to take the land, no land has been taken from Afrikaners. Also, that's President Ramaphosa. He'll be at the White House this week. Take it up with him. Also, the definition of genocide is aimed at extermination, right? And so although there is violence in South Africa, there's violence against Black South Africans too. So when the president says that there is genocide, where is the evidence?
The poor, the farmer.
The U.S. has not recognized officially genocide. The United Nations has not recognized genocide. And for the thousands of people who you say were let into this country who've been granted asylum,
Absolutely.
I'm talking under the Refugee Resettlement Program, which the president froze by executive order early in his administration.
Victor, can we take a pause and
Sure.
recognize the fact that you are defending race-based discrimination? You are defending race-based violence.
I'm not defending race-based discrimination in any way. The president uses the term genocide. There is no genocide in South Africa, and frankly, it does a disservice to people in countries around the world who are facing genocide in the Congo, in Sudan, those who faced it in Rwanda and Bosnia and Cambodia.
Let me be very clear. There were 500,000 bodies in the dirt before they declared Rwanda a genocide. Official recognition of genocide from a government thousands of miles away from where you and your family are being hunted down doesn't mean shit. The issue here is that we shouldn't be waiting until thousands of more people are killed. There's already been over 20,000 victims from attacks on their farms. Over 4,000 people have been murdered, I think since the 90s. And these people don't seem concerned about what's happening whatsoever. And there is one thing that he's completely right about. There are people who are Black that are being attacked, and that shouldn't be happening either. The only difference between me and people like Victor Blackwell, or that racist bitch from the beginning, is that I would also invite those people to come here. I would want those people to come here. If they need asylum and they're legitimate refugees from violence, then they should come here, because that's what the spirit of America is about. It's not selective and looking at the shade of your skin to determine whether or not you deserve asylum. These people would rather it get to this point right here, what you've been seeing on the screen. They would let it get to this point before they would do anything for these people. Specifically talking about the South Africans. The whole point is that we're trying to keep it from getting to a genocide before it happens.
So
exactly,
when the president
Victor,
says
exactly,
that
and
there's
that's
genocide
exactly
in South Africa, it does not exist. We should probably just start with that truth.
Okay, if you're going to allow me on your program, I'd like to speak.
You're welcome
Again,
to.
we have granted asylum to 8,666 individuals since January 20th, regardless of color or creed. It is quite frankly disturbing to me that members of the media, including people who are on this very network, are trying to whitewash the facts and whitewash the fact that these individuals have faced discrimination, racial violence, the seizure of their land based on nothing but their skin color alone. This is the United States of America, a land of opportunity, and we will help those who are facing persecution from the government of South Africa.
So you clearly are not going to acknowledge there's no genocide in South Africa. What about the genocide in the Congo? Will there be this expedited path available to the Congolese and to the Sudanese who are facing actual genocide?
Expedited? No, probably not. You know why? Because there's like tens of fucking thousands of people. We wouldn't be able to do that. Whole point of going and snatching up these fucking Afrikaners is because there's so few of them. There are 59 of them. Okay? Do you understand that? There's 59 of these motherfuckers. It's easier to expedite people who come in at a slower rate, which is the issue with the southern border. All the people that are fucking crying about South America being ignored because they're trying to flee from oppression, from cartels and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that'd be great if we could actually do that, but we can't because there's so many fucking people coming in at one time. If there were fewer people, they would be easier to get in here, period.
Again, Victor, 8,666 individuals have been granted
You have
asylum.
a specific number on asylum. How many of those are from the Congo or from the Sudan?
So, pretty sure that this is the numbers that Chris McLaughlin is referencing. And as you can see, the number one country that refugees are coming in from is the Congo. My man is worried about 59 fucking white people when we're trying to bring in almost 20,000 people from the DRC. It wouldn't matter if it was 100,000 people coming in from the DRC. They wouldn't give a shit. They would still be making the exact same argument. And instead of talking about the DRC, guess what they'd be talking about? What about Sudan? What about Rwanda? Because I think shit's starting to pop off in Rwanda again. What about Nigeria? I mean, dude, it doesn't matter. They don't care. They'll never care.
I'm happy to come back next week and lay out all the single facts, but the fact that you have not addressed the fact that we have helped these individuals who are facing persecution, and you seem to want to whitewash the fact that South Afrikaners are facing persecution, and I can't understand why, and I think a lot of Americans can't understand why, and it's left to believe that it's because of the color of their skin, Victor.
So you suggest that I am the one here who is focused on color of skin.
Yeah, that's about right.
When the president has let in Afrikaners specifically, and I'm asking how many of those who are actually facing genocide, who are from the Sudan and who are from Congo, who are being let in under some expedited path that the president has created for Afrikaners?
I don't know how many times I have to repeat this fact. 8,666 individuals have, if you will let me speak, have
You've
faced
repeated the number. You
are
haven't
given
answered the
asylum.
question.
I'm exactly answering the question. Regardless of color or creed, we will allow you into this country if you are facing persecution and you go through the proper vetting. You can be from the Congo, you can be from Rwanda. We are letting those in who are facing persecution, Victor.
Unbelievably based. How the fuck do you even argue against that?
I'll look for those numbers. Let me get you last thing here on this game show that's being pitched to the Department of Homeland Security. This is the producer who is pitching this. We've got some sound from him. His name is Rob Warsoff. Let's play what he describes this show as, immigrants competing for American citizenship. Let's play it.
I think they're taking it seriously. I feel good about it. I'm not the Department of Homeland Security, so I can't tell you the whirlwind of the last 24 to 48 hours since my pitch document was leaked to somebody in the press. I don't know where they stand exactly now, but I feel like we're trending in a good way. And I look for, I mean, I have interest from networks. I have interest from production companies to pair with, and I feel good about it.
Yep. Just as soon as he starts to run out of ways to spin this whole situation, he just throws in this weird game show for citizenship pitch like it's supposed to prove something. First of all, nobody's approved this. It was a dumbass pitch that probably came from some Hollywood reject trying to ride the headlines. Okay? Second, how the fuck is this even relevant to what we're talking about? We're talking about 59 people fleeing death and persecution. And he wants to talk about reality TV. What the fuck has happened to journalism? This is what you do when the facts aren't on your side. If you've got a problem with refugee policy, then just say it. Don't pretend you care about the process when you're using a fake TV show pitch to derail an actual humanitarian case. These people weren't on a game show. They were trying not to get murdered.
And so he says that the department is taking it seriously. Is DHS taking this pitch seriously?
Victor, I receive hundreds of pitches a year for scripted shows, for docuseries on anything from TSA to FEMA to U.S. Coast Guard to Secret Service to CBP to ICE. We review them all thoroughly. We give everyone a shot to make their pitch, but this is still in the very, very beginning phases. Secretary Noem is not even aware of this pitch, or sure wasn't until this Daily Mail fake story came out that she was backing it. So again, I haven't even reviewed the pitch doc, so we'll take a look.
So you haven't reviewed the pitch doc. Has someone in the department, for him to say they're taking it seriously, he's had several meetings. Is this something, well, let me rephrase the question because you've answered that one. Why consider, after all that we've discussed, how serious who's being brought into this country, the refugee program, immigration, literally turning it into a game? Why consider that?
Victor, we get hundreds of pitches, pitch decks, and they go to one person's office and they're reviewed. Again, I've not reviewed that pitch deck. So for you to say we're taking anything seriously is just not true.
I asked if you're taking it seriously, but you gave your answer. Tricia McLaughlin, always good to have you on the show. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Victor.
That was probably the most soy ending we could have asked for from Blackwell. But this entire situation proves one thing. Compassion isn't a universal trait held by people anymore. It's conditional. If your suffering doesn't fit the narrative that people like Blackwell are pushing, if you don't tick the right boxes, you, along with the people that are willing to stand up for you, are going to be ignored and mocked and potentially even erased. And the people that are doing it aren't even on the fringe. This is mainstream media. And they're allowing people to come onto their platform to spew open racism on camera and then look you in the face and tell you that it's justice. Bullshit. They'll sit there behind a desk and pretend that helping 59 white refugees is somehow controversial because of something that someone did decades ago that they're related to. That is not a system that anybody should be living in. That's not a society that anybody wants to live in. That's a cult that's built on guilt, cowardice, and fear, and not something that any of us should be willing to participate in. And you need to be willing to call it what it is. Now, hopefully after watching this video, you're pissed off. You should be. Don't just sit there with that feeling. Actually go and say something. Talk to your friends about this situation. Talk to your friends about not just the situation with the South Africans. Talk to them about these media platforms as a whole, what they're doing and what they're allowing to happen. Let your voice be heard everywhere that you can, every comment section, every conversation. These people, they don't fear the truth. They fear the moment that regular people start saying it out loud. So go out there, stand up, call out the double standards, and force these cowards to look in the mirror and answer for everything that they're defending. Silence isn't being neutral. It's surrender. And I'm not fucking surrendering. And neither should you. I'll see you in the next one.